Welcome to the Global Peace Film Festival Lives Online Conversation 2023 Festival Edition. Please join me, Kelly Devine, the Artistic Director, and Nina Strike, Founder and Festival Director, in conversation with Jan Selby, the filmmaker of the film Beyond the Divide, which you can see as part of our virtual programming, and you can find out all the information about our different programs by visiting peacefilmfest.org. Now, let's welcome Jan to the conversation. So good to have you back in a conversation. Thank you, Jan.
Thank you. It's so wonderful to see both of you again.
Yes, it's great to see you, Jan. And we're so thrilled to bring back Beyond the Divide to the virtual festival this year. It's such a lovely film. So still so important, actually, maybe even more important than it was when we first had it, because, well, tell us about the film and you'll tell us why it's so important now.
Well, thank you for including the film again. I had a great time at your festival years ago, and it's so nice to be part of it. Well, yes, to your point, Beyond the Divide is about two people, a Vietnam vet with PTSD, Dan Gallagher, and a woman who is the executive director of the Peace Center and a peace activist in Missoula, Montana. And it's about how a graffiti peace symbol that mysteriously appeared on a hillside in Missoula and kept reappearing and reappearing, was in a way brought them together to find common ground. And the goal in making it was a film to tell a intriguing story, but also to tell a film that, or create a film that really inspires people to move beyond what we normally think of as, people who agree with us or easy conversations, and to look for common ground with people who think differently than we do. And as you said, when I made this film in 2014 was when it started hitting the film festival circuit, and it's been almost 10 years. But as we all know, the difficulties in finding common ground in our society have become harder and harder, and the divides have felt bigger and bigger and harder to overcome.
Well, and Jan, one of the things, though, that was so impactful about the film was the way you capture this respectful dialogue between two people who maybe start off talking past one another, but then eventually start to actually listen to what they have in common.
Mm-hmm. They did. I was inspired by them and felt that the people they are, as demonstrated in the film, really provide a path to thinking about how we all can do it, because it is hard. And sometimes we even want to find that common ground, but we don't know where to start. And I really appreciate the courage that Dan and Betsy demonstrate, because they talk about, they don't know what to say sometimes. They don't know what to do sometimes, and they still take action or move forward. And there's a vulnerability that allows for them to find a path. And I think that's really important for us all to know that, and remember that sometimes we don't know what to do, but stepping towards someone, or even being able to say, I don't know what to do or say, and I would like to open up a dialogue, can be really powerful.
And if you can take yourself back to when you were making the film, was there anything about the production or your interactions that ended up surprising you? I mean, it's hard not to have certain preconceptions when you start a project. So was there anything that took you by surprise?
Many things took me by surprise. I think part of making a documentary film is you go in with ideas, but you expect to learn, hopefully learn a lot more than you know at the very beginning. And you are open to what I call golden moments. And I think they happen all the time. I think they're a lot like life, making a film, a documentary film, and is that you you think you know where you're going or you have a goal, but it's so important to be open to new ideas along the way, because when I made this film, I thought the film was going to be about one thing, and then some things happened in the making of the film that really surprised me, but ultimately made it a better film, a much more dramatic ending, and things surprised. I think they surprised Dan and Betsy as they were happening, and surprised the entire community, and they definitely surprised me. So I don't want to give too much away for people, but I think that no matter, one thing that I am proud of is that in the audiences who watched this film, there were people who came more from Dan's perspective and people who came more from Betsy's perspective, and then in between. And I felt that everyone really appreciated the story and did not feel judged in any way, no matter what point of view they started from. I used to hear stories in the audience where someone would stand up and say, you know, I protested the Vietnam War and my brother went to war, and for decades this has been something between us that we haven't been able to talk about, and I want him to see this film. I want to watch it as a family because I feel this can open up a new kind of conversation. So those were really meaningful comments to me, because I intended to have this not be a film of position in any way. It was, and because of who Dan and Betsy are, Dan is no longer alive, but who they are in the film, I think they demonstrated how one can be true to their own values and authentically be yourself and still be able to respect people with different points of view.
Well, that's such an important part of a civil, peaceful dialogue. It's not about the erasure of differences or the erasure of viewpoints. It's about trying to find a way to take them seriously and to take them with respect, and to see the dignity of the other person holding that different viewpoint. And it's what attracted us to your work. This was not even the first. This was, I think, our second film from you, wasn't it?
My first film was short about the history of the peace symbol. Yes. So that film is right in the same alley, right?
So we really enjoyed having that film. And so is there a thread throughout your work, that attracts you to certain subjects and not others, or?
I would say more than anything, what draws me to a story is if I feel like it can make a difference. It not as necessarily a theme, although there kind of can be, because there's something about different stories that appeal to me as a unique individual. But I think when I first heard about this story about the mysterious peace symbol on the hill and what happened in the community, and that's what initially drew me to Missoula. And then I met different people and didn't exactly know how I was going to tell the story, but met Dan and Betsy, and it became obvious that they would be wonderful people to be at the core of the story. And so it felt to me like when I made that film, it was to really hopefully make a difference in inspiring people to see how common ground can be discovered, even though it might be uncomfortable or difficult. It with honesty and vulnerability, it may not be as hard as one imagines. So I think it's just stories that I feel like, are worthwhile to spend years and nights working hard and raising money and all the difficult things that go into making a documentary film. You have to really be committed to it to carry you through some of the challenges. And so I think it's more finding something that speaks to me that I know I will be so committed to, that even when it feels difficult or obstacles arise and you don't know how you're going to deal with them, that you just stick with it. And so I think that's probably what draws me to a film. It has to really be worthwhile so to me, it will make a difference, hopefully.
Well, you've said often in your answer about that using that phrase, making a difference, and that is so central to the mission of our festival. You know, the main driver of our programming decisions are around what kind of models or stories or sources of inspiration can we bring to our audience, so that those various people in the audience can take those ideas and models back into their own lives and communities, and hopefully make a difference, make a positive difference. And so, you know, when you think about, I know when I was talking to Nina about having an encore showing of your film Beyond the Divide, you know, I was really looking at the idea of using this film as a way to help people, inspire them, that we've had different issues that have divided us, and there are ways that it's not necessarily new. Maybe the specifics about these things are new, but the fact that we are always dealing with difference is not new. And maybe even that can give them some hope on top of the model behavior that you see from the two people you follow. And I was just wondering what you are hoping people will take away from revisiting your film.
Well, I think it's really what you said, Kelly, which is, you know, it's relevant still. Right? Human beings are always going to have different opinions. Different opinions are welcome. You know, diversity is welcome in our world. It'd be very boring if everybody was the same. And at the same time, it can create challenges for us. And in our culture, we don't really learn how to navigate that, right? We barely learn how to communicate well often. Our schools don't teach, I shouldn't say that in general. It's not a focal point to teach conflict resolution, you know, peaceful dialogue, all the kind of tools that are out there to be able to have meaningful conversations with people who might be different than you are and think differently. So I feel like I hope the film just adds to everything you're doing, you know, and others are doing to inspire people to believe that more is possible, to inspire hope, I guess, and to as kind of a related note is, for me, when I went into making this film, I did not have this same respect. I'll be honest, and this is not something I'm proud of, but I did not have the same respect for people who chose to serve in the military as I do now after making that film, because I had come more from one point of view, and through getting to know Dan well as a friend, and what I also learned from him, which so much is in the film, you know, I was able to expand my thinking about what service means. And now I really see that for many people, you know, service takes so many forms. Even what you're doing to create a film festival, I mean, that is service without a doubt. And I had never really put serving in the military as a form of service. Like I said, I'm kind of embarrassed, but I had come from a certain point of view, had not really been exposed to many people who had served in the military. And so it really expanded my ability to understand people with really different experiences than I had. And so it was a gift to me to have Dan become a dear friend. And I feel like the film can allow people who, no matter what point of view you come from, allow people to expand current thinking that maybe allows them to have different kinds of conversation with people in their lives now, or people they might meet.
Yeah, that's one of the things we love about the film is the fact that it does open one's perspective and allows that empathy across the divide, beyond the divide. and we're really delighted to have the film back and to be able to share it with people, because it is such an important message. So what tell us a little bit about what you've done since, because that's a long time ago, and what you're doing now, and also about how people can support your work.
Oh, thank you. So I made another feature film, which I finished in 2018, and it's called Inside Montessori, and it's actually available at insidemontessori.org, I believe. I think we might own org and com, so I'm not sure, but if you look up Inside Montessori, it's easy to find. And that was a labor of love with a co-producer and co-director, Vina Kay. And our goal was that we had both had children who were able to have access to Montessori education, and felt it was profoundly respectful of children and human beings and the diversity that is brought from with each unique individual. And a lot of people had preconceived notions about Montessori that were really incorrect, and like that it was, you know, that only there were only private Montessori schools, or it was only for privileged people, or that it was didn't let children play, or there are just so many myths that had been out there. And so we decided to make this film, which follows 5 schools around the country. We went into 5 schools, and it really has a social justice angle to it. And we were very drawn to how certain Montessori schools in the country were addressing racism and trying to level the playing field for children who often were facing, they and their families, systemic barriers to access to quality education. So that was a wonderful project. And for a few years, it was used within the Montessori community, education communities in the US, in North America and beyond. But just recently we made it all free, because at first we were like, schools were purchasing it and using it. So there's a full film, and then it's broken up into chapters based on developmental levels too. And it's really an opportunity to understand how human beings develop, also just child development. So very passionate about that film. And I'm not working on any more films right now. You know, to be honest, I'm sure you've heard this from many filmmakers, it's exhausting making a documentary film over years. And the thing that's most difficult is the raising money. I love the creative part of it, but the raising of money is quite exhausting. And you know, right now I don't have another story that's calling to me to put in that kind of time and energy. And at the same time, I might have more films in me. I don't know. I'm just kind of waiting and seeing. I do have a production company, Quiet Island Films, and I'm located in St. Paul, Minnesota, and I've really been enjoying doing work for clients. And a lot of my clients are nonprofits. So I'm getting some of that on a much smaller scale, satisfaction and making a difference with the skills I have, helping clients like the Center for Victims of Torture, which is a wonderful organization headquartered here in the Twin Cities and does amazing work around the world. And so we're currently editing a project that's an interview based on a survivor of torture in Ethiopia. So I'm just kind of letting organically see what the universe brings, and looking for opportunities to make a difference without having to spend so much time raising so much money to complete a film. So I'm kind of doing that dance right now. And someone came to me and said, here's a budget, do you want to make a film? I would be like, if I believed in it, I'd be like, I'm all over it. But I know I'm doing smaller projects.
Well, Jan, this has been a wonderful conversation, and I'm very glad to hear that that even if you may not be working on a feature project, that you are feeling good about continuing to make a difference through all of your work. So we applaud you for that, and thank you for sharing your film again with us. I think this encore screening is going to be really impactful for our audiences. So thank you, Jan.
Thank you both. And I really appreciate all you're doing to bring these important films to the public. So I appreciate you both.
And thank you to everyone who listened to today's Glow. Again, we've been speaking with filmmaker Jan Selby for the film Beyond the Divide. And if you want to learn more about her work, her past work, as well as her current work with nonprofits creating films for them, please go to quietislandfilms.com. And if you want to know how to see Beyond the Divide, please go to peacefilmfest.org to find out all the details about our upcoming programming. Our live in-person programming begins September 19th and ends on September 23rd, while our virtual programming, where you can see Beyond the Divide, begins September 25th and ends October the 1st. Thank you, and we'll see you at the next Glow.